Listen, if you're like most non-native English speakers, you've probably been studying English for years and years and years and years. But you still feel like you need more grammar and you lack grammar or you always make grammar mistakes. That's because you've probably been studying it wrong. And I don't mean studying the wrong grammar, I mean studying grammar in an inefficient way. Well, today I'm going to share with you the biggest mistake that I see non-native English speakers make when studying grammar, teachers too, and one mindset and approach to studying grammar that will change everything in how you learn English. Let's go. Hey there, English speakers. Welcome back to the channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jesse. I'm an English fluency coach, and I specialize in helping the more intermediate to advanced speakers bridge that gap from advanced to fluent so that you can freely speak with complete certainty, confidence, and control to deliver your message in English. But today, I'm going to be talking about a topic that a lot of students don't like studying, but they feel they need to, and a lot of teachers don't really teach it effectively, and this is English grammar. Now, before we get into it, I said a lot of teachers don't teach it effectively. That's not to say all teachers. I know many teachers who do teach in very fun, dynamic ways. I'm talking about the English education system as a whole, meaning in academies, in schools, the curriculum. It's teaching English backwards, essentially. So what do I mean? By backwards, I mean you're starting at the wrong place if you think that you need more grammar. Now, your English teachers and in your English classrooms, you've probably done things like this and had lessons like this. We'll do present and past perfect, right? They will introduce a topic like this and say, what's the difference between present perfect and past perfect? They might actually draw one thing that I really like, actually, is a timeline and then say something like, well, present perfect is an action in the past that happens until now, something like that. And the grammar is have or has plus past participle. And they might say, what is a past participle? And give me some examples. Okay, and then change that, compare that to past perfect, which is the same thing, but in the past. And the grammar is had plus past participle. And then they might give you some examples. For example, I have been to Japan 2 times in my life. And the past of the past is I had never been to Japan before living in Korea, right? Something basic like that. So they might start with the grammar rule and then give some examples, have you give some examples, and then give you a nice little exam to make sure you can tell me what I just told you. Does that sound about familiar? Now, the main problem with studying and having grammar lessons like that, it's okay, but it's really starting from the wrong place, right? You're teaching it backwards, like I said in the beginning. Why? Because language is made for one thing. Language is made for communication, right? And if you're starting with the construction, you're starting at a place that language was never intended for. You see, when language develops, it doesn't start with the grammar rules. There's not a committee that says, well, the past perfect should have had, and it should talk about things in the past and the past of the past with a past reference. No, that's not how it works. I love how Dr. Peter Crosswith put it in a conversation I had with him. Peter has a PhD in applied linguistics, and he's a professor in Australia. And he put it like this.
Right, because the rules that make these things up is pretty much completely arbitrary. The rules are actually, there is no such thing as grammatical rules, to be honest. In fact, what grammatical rules are merely statistical frequency effects of actual language in use. And the difference between native speakers and second language learners is native speakers have already internalized all of these statistics as a result of being exposed to millions, if not billions of words throughout their lifetime.
So you see, grammar rules don't really exist. They are essentially observations of patterns and tendencies that we use in our communication. It's kind of like learning a sport. Like, let's say football, European football, not the American football, right? But European football, or what we call soccer. If I were to ask you, are geometry and physics an important part of the game of football? You would probably say, yeah, right? The angle of the ball, you run to this angle, you make plays, you cut to a 45-degree angle, you have to kick the ball with a certain velocity to pass it, to shoot it. Right, these things are involved. But you're not going to study physics and geometry so you can be a good football player, right? That's not part of the football training usually, right? It's a part of the game, but it's a part of the game not to know, it's a part of the game to use with your feet. Same thing in grammar. It's something that helps you. It helps you if you know it, but not just to know it. You have to be able to use it. And that's the difference. How can we learn grammar? The same thing as I said last week with the phrasal verbs. If you don't know what question I asked, I'll put that up here. But how can I learn it, meaning grammar? How can I learn grammar without studying it so I can use it? Right? The same question applies because you want to know more grammar because you want to build different structured sentences. You want to be able to say exactly what you want to say. You want to be able to sound natural and sound like native speakers, which, quite frankly, native speakers don't use correct grammar all the time, right? So, but you want to sound correct. You want to speak correctly. How can you do that? Well, one thing that I recommend is taking a look at specifically what you want to say in context. And to do this, you have to be a little self-aware. You have to be aware of yourself. You have to have specific English time where you're focused on your communication. That's the first thing that I teach. You have to have a specific routine, designated time that you have every day. I recommend 30 minutes. If you're spending much more than that, you're probably overtraining 30 to 40 minutes, but have a specific time when you dedicate to English. And as you're doing that, you would have specific tasks, specific homework for yourself or given to you by a teacher if you want to join my community. Right? You would have specific tasks. That's a difficult word, and I know that's a difficult word for you too. A little speaking hack, a pronunciation hack real quick, is for things like tasks, wrists, any sort of plural, SKS, STS, just cut off that consonant, tasks, and extend the S, right? Ask a question. We have many asks. That's a little difficult. Asked. He asked. Who asked this? Who asked this? This kind of sounds like ask, but it's asks. Anyway, so that's what I have. You want to have a specific time where you're focused on your English, and then as you record in your phone, as you record yourself speaking, as you're writing, you'll start to pick up patterns where you get stuck, or you'll see some grammar as you're having your English time and as you're observing the language and shadowing, you'll start to pick up on different types of grammar that you're not really familiar with. Then you can go to my good friend Google and just type in a simple thing. Whatever grammar you want, exercises. So let's take past perfect exercises. And if you do that, there's a whole list of resources that are available to you with exercises that you can do and check your answers right away, so you can start getting that repetition in that new grammar that you want to work on. You see how it's different? We're starting with the communication. We're not starting with the grammar. We're starting with the communication, starting with what you want to say, and then finding a way to say it correctly. Do you see a difference? We're not starting with the grammar rules. We're not starting with these are the grammar. Now make up some arbitrary sentence so you can use this formula correctly. No, you're starting with what you want to say, identifying a weakness, identifying a hole, and then learning the grammar that you need and practicing, right? So that's my power tip today. That's how you can study grammar effectively and efficiently, saving time and saving frustration. If you would like a complete roadmap, an outline giving you a roadmap to being a great English speaker, I have an outline taking you from building your routine, building your schedule to fit a short English time in your schedule to stay consistent, all the way through how to hunt the language that you want to learn, how to hunt your vocabulary and your grammar and your expressions and your pronunciation, and then how to shadow what you hear to improve your speaking, and all the way taking you down to continuing your momentum. If you want this training, this outline, I'll put a link to that down below. And if you need a little more direction for faster results, then book a call with me below or at sweetacademy.com/brainstorm, and then we will formulate a plan specifically for you. But that's it for me. My time with you is over. Keep teaching, keep learning. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.